Welcome to CRM Stories with me, Jerome Clatworthy. CRM Stories is a podcast where we talk with Salesforce professionals from all over the world about their careers and favorite Salesforce case studies. Today, I'm joined by Jon Mervis from Blue Engine Solutions. Jon, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
So, Jon, where in the world are you sitting as we have this chat?
Sure. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, just outside D.C. in an area called Maryland, in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Is that kind of metropolitan still, or is it a bit more regional?
No, it is, exactly. It's metropolitan D.C.
Okay.
About a half a mile from the city line, but where I am, it feels quieter. I've got a dog and a little kid, so we can walk down the middle of the street and it's quiet.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And before we get stuck into Salesforce, so what does life look like, I guess, outside of work in terms of partners, kids, pets, dependents, hobbies? What do you guys get up to?
I've got a 2-year-old who's really a joy that I spend a lot of time with, and that's really the joy of my life. And I've got a 3-year-old little dog to my side that is a pain in the ass. And
what sort of dog? What breed?
He's actually an Aussie Doodle.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, an Australian Shepherd and a Poodle. No, he's a wonderful dog, but now that I've got a 2-year-old that I have to chase around and my wife is pregnant, I have far less patience for a dog, and I prioritize other things, and so and life is good. So I'm in Washington, D.C. I grew up around here and stayed around here. We'll get into it later about my business, but I think there's sort of a big part of my big business is just like the network of people that I met over the years. It wasn't through networking. It was like through going to first grade or going to summer camp as a kid.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
The people in my life that I've just known forever, or I know their cousin or their sister or whatever.
So a really organic sort of network.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that's just, it's like sort of those leads like fall into my lap. I don't like network for them, but
really,
that's just sort of the honest truth about my life.
Yeah, fantastic. And how did you get started with Salesforce, Jon? What was your introduction to the ecosystem?
So I was working in the family business. My family's in the diamond jewelry business and retail. Originally, the family's from South Africa. So anyway, I was working in the family business for about 10 years. And being a multi-generational business, of course, on the younger side, was like interested in technology and systems and how do we like make things more streamlined and processes. And I brought in a CRM, sugar CRM. Well, first I saw the need. I was like, wait, why don't we not have like one centralized system? Why can't we see like, visibility of what's going on and what?
Sure.
And brought in sugar CRM and owned that for many years, adding all sorts of functionality and integrations and whatever. And really like saw firsthand sort of the digital transformation at a retailer that, diamond jewelry, it's a sort of old fashioned business, been the same for generations. And sort of saw that the power of a CRM and how it can help a business grow. And then realized like, I want to sort of focus on that. I want to do that. I like that a lot more than the diamonds and jewelry. So I decided to go off on my own and sort of build out a practice of CRM consulting.
So were you in a tech sort of role, or just a jack of all trades, family business, you do everything and the technology was just sort of part of that?
I didn't, go through a traditional hiring role. I didn't apply for a traditional role. As a family business, like you do whatever you think the needs are on that day. And a big part of that for me was CRM. So when I decided to go off on my own and start a CRM consulting business, I made the decision that if I'm going to do CRM, like I want to learn the biggest and the best, or the best and the brightest. And that is Salesforce. And so I conceptually understood everything, in terms of like from another CRM, but there was cross training, of course, learning a different system. And the truth is I went in completely from the ground up, starting Trailblazer, Trailhead, whatever, from zero knowledge, and just decided like, this is going to be what I do. This is going to be my new career, and launched my business. And that was in 2020.
Okay, so coming up 4 years now, or better 4 years. Yeah, cool. And how would you describe your current role? So are you a one-man show, or you got a team that you're looking after? How big is that?
I've got a small team. I've got a team of about 8, most of which are contractors, and some full-time employees as well. What was the question?
Yeah, how would you describe your current role? So you're
Oh,
mostly managing people, or are you still sort of in the weeds doing the work as well, or a bit of
no,
both?
mostly I'm managing people in projects.
Okay.
I'm not in the weeds in specific uh, building out whatever
Hmm.
flows and situations.
Yep.
Um, and I try to step in to any projects where I'm needed, where there's a support. Well,
Hmm.
where I feel like I can help.
Yeah.
Certainly, like I don't want to see things stagnate. I don't want things go off the rails. I'm the ultimate sort of the buck stops here in terms of
Yep.
making sure a project is successful. But otherwise, I give my team a lot of autonomy and like
Yeah.
you're in charge. I'm not going to micromanage, but I'm here to support you.
Yeah, fantastic. Cool, cool. So now you're sort of making sure the work gets done, whether someone else is doing it or chipping in if you need to, but just trying to keep the train rolling down the tracks. Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm keen to talk about a few potential case studies of, I guess, projects you may have been exposed to over the years. So, firstly, maybe one where Salesforce had a phenomenal impact on a business in terms of profitability or even efficiency, if it was used in a more behind the scenes sense, and then also one that was just really fascinating to you in terms of really unique use of Salesforce, and then maybe a project where things didn't go so well, or at least in a part of it, and sort of what you learned from that and what you took away. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, I think
All
there
right.
was a movie made about this about 50 years ago, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah,
So,
okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, so
uh,
in terms of a Salesforce project that you were exposed to where Salesforce just had like a phenomenal impact on a business,
yeah, I'll
what sort
tell
of
you.
comes to mind? Yeah.
Yeah, so well, first of all, I want to say that my business we work about 50% with nonprofits
Okay.
and 50% with small businesses.
Hmm.
Um, so actually, the first example I want to tell you about is from a nonprofit.
Okay.
They it's a nonprofit organization that gives services to underprivileged families.
Okay.
Um, they could be giving school supplies before back to school,
Mm.
or maybe they're helping a family pay their heating bill because they can't afford that. So before, if I can just tell you like the before and after,
Absolutely. Yeah. Perfect.
they had a team of like essentially social workers, right? Like,
Yeah.
helpers or whatever, caseworkers,
Yeah. Yeah.
and hundreds and hundreds of different Google Sheets tracking every different type of need and then
Oh.
approval.
Oh.
And then they would have trainings, what's the word? Like educational courses, let's just say,
Yep.
uh, re, uh, like responsible alcohol use or how to do your
Okay.
taxes. They would have courses, and every different course, every session would be a different Google sheet on who
Oh.
showed up, who didn't show up,
Oh.
and they would try to give certificates.
Oh.
And it's like amazing that anything could get done given how many different moving parts there were.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the organization was growing, and they reached out to us as like, "Hey, we need a system."
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
not
I'm
just
just
in terms of fundraising, so more so in terms of the operation side of it, or
Yeah,
everything.
the operations was just like falling apart, right?
Yeah.
Of course, things like you could do that if you work with 3 clients, but what happens when 3 becomes 30 or 300 or
Yeah.
1,000? So where I'm so excited is like we built for them like a dynamic form, for
Yeah.
example. When their clients want to attend, let's just say, you know, uh, how to parent a difficult teen seminar every Thursday night. They go
Yeah.
to like one form on their website. The
Hmm.
form dynamically is populated with the different events that are saved in Salesforce. So
Mm.
they don't have to. It used to be they would create a different form for every single event.
So new landing page for every single
New
thing.
landing
Yeah.
page. So now it's like one page. It
Yeah.
just dynamically changes and pulls in the data from Salesforce for the upcoming events.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything is saved to Salesforce. They're using project, what is it called? Program management module. It's called PMM.
Okay.
It's a free, I don't know, managed package from Salesforce
Okay.
specifically for nonprofits. Actually, I could imagine many not for-profits using it as well, but
Okay.
it handles specifically, who's enrolled in what program and what are the services we're giving them.
Okay.
And yeah, everything is centralized, and it's dramatically affected the organization.
Right.
Made their team like love the system. I mean, if
Really.
I, like everyone else, has clients that adoption is an issue, but here, like the team loves Salesforce because it makes their lives easier. And then big picture, it's because everything is centralized, the data's in one place. Management can easily run a report and say like, we help this many I don't know, Asian Americans in
Yeah, so they got
ward
good data
through.
for their funding applications or whatever they want to use it for to prove what sort of impact they're having.
Yeah, so it's so much easier for them to get the data out, whereas before, as you can imagine, with all their spreadsheets, it was like a nightmare. And now they can apply because it's easier. They can apply for more grants, and because they apply for more grants, they can get more grants. So
Prove
they
the
get
work
more
they're doing.
grants, they can be so much more impactful. And as a business, so we are not a nonprofit, but it feels good to have a client that our work is literally helping the kids who need help, and it just feels good. So yeah, that's certainly a success story where we, I would say we did the implementation of their org from the very beginning, and we've maintained sort of an ongoing. It's not as formalized as a managed services agreement, but it's sort of ad hoc. When they need stuff, we do it, and then we send them an invoice.
Fantastic.
And they love us, and just keep,
fantastic.
The ball keeps rolling down the hill in terms of, hey, can we add this functionality? Can we, build one more thing, so that's just continued for, I don't know, a few years.
So how much of the success would you attribute just to like digital transformation in general compared to what Salesforce specifically brought to the table?
Well, I mean, Salesforce is the platform they used to put everything together. If your thought, or you're alluding to like, well, what if they didn't use Salesforce? What if they had used Dynamics or HubSpot? I mean, I don't know. I could imagine that they could have also found a lot of value with another system. I'm not a Dynamics expert. I'm not a HubSpot expert, so I couldn't tell you exactly, honestly, where some of the other systems fall short. But but Salesforce for them has been great.
Yep. And was it a standard sort of MPSP sort of setup, or did you just sort of custom build most things?
It was an interesting component because they're very concerned about privacy.
Sure.
And so we built all sorts of I have to think about what we built already. It's been years.
That's all right.
Hide confidential information, especially from minors.
Sure.
And they need to report data to, whatever agencies and stuff like that. But they want to be very careful not to, expose other people's information just because, they're underprivileged. Their names and details shouldn't be out and about in the world.
Absolutely.
So we built a lot of customization around that.
Cool.
And sometimes, I mean, for example, Salesforce requires a last name. You can't save a record without a last name. But what if you don't know the last name? What if you intentionally don't know the last name and you don't want to know the last name?
Absolutely.
So we built this whole system around that.
Yeah, fascinating. Oh, very cool. All right. And what about, I guess a Salesforce use case that was really, that surprised you, that you found really personally fascinating, I guess, just for you as an individual?
So an example of one that, it's not that complicated. It's not that
no, that's cool.
Technically complicated, but I found it interesting because this was a construction client that sells different materials for a construction site. And they work on major projects, airports and whatever, major projects. So it's huge. First of all, when you look at projects and you're like, oh, I know those places, right? It's sort of different, right? When you can relate to that. And what was so interesting about that case was that an opportunity doesn't represent either we won it or lost it, because what they said is, in their situation, every opportunity, like building a new airport, there's so many different components to that they could win or lose the roofing material for the hangar. They could win or lose the, I don't know, tiling in the bathroom. There's 1,000 different things.
Really?
And how could we track all that? And when does it make sense to have multiple different opportunities? Because, of course, that's an idea. You could have a hierarchy. But they wanted to keep it together as one opportunity, but they just want to be able to track the different components and visually on a page. And this is what I think was really cool, was we used unofficial Salesforce had a component that we used on the page, so they could visually track the processes, like the sales stages essentially of the tiling or the roofing or the whatever. But all within one opportunity.
So with one opportunity with that component, so you could separately somehow visualize all the different potential, I guess, sub opportunities or whatever the best word is. You could do that within that single. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did they manage it over the time frame in terms of, what was the sort of start and end of an opportunity? Like the whole airport project would be the start and end, or was there still like a finite sales process within that sort of?
Well, to be honest, I don't exactly know. I wasn't. So, I mean, this is a project where like I had one of my consultants on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So like he did most of the build. I just sort of jumped in and out. So I don't exactly remember how they, or I couldn't tell you how they did the start and stop of a project. It's a good point.
Absolutely. No, that's right.
But
yeah.
I just remember this was a client again that what made it a little bit more interesting is sort of the personal side, that it was a family business themselves.
Okay.
And the client was, a daughter of the owner, right? And was working with her father and with her cousins and brothers. And so like I could relate to her and where I come from
the family business side of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And could relate that like, getting some users to use the system was a challenge.
Okay.
And for them, adoption was particularly a problem because of this exact dilemma where an opportunity didn't have one sales stage.
Yeah.
Because of this thing, she said people didn't want to use the system. They wanted one place to look at everything, but they wanted different sales stages.
Yeah, right.
So like that was the big hurdle. And so it sort of felt nice to solve that hurdle. And then she could be the champion internally at the organization. It was like, look at Salesforce. We did it. Now we can take our construction company into, the next century.
So she could do the change management side of things and win the hearts and minds internally. You guys built the system and that. Yeah, cool.
So that was an exciting project.
Interesting.
And
okay, cool. And then, last sort of case study. Is there something that comes to mind about, where something maybe really didn't go to plan and, lessons learned, what you've taken from that and, do you do anything differently, I guess, now,
Yeah. There's one project specifically.
Respecting confidentiality, of course,
Yeah, confidential, but you're going to put this on the internet. But no, the lesson learned, and I guess is just about insufficient requirement gathering.
Okay.
That's the main problem. But the root or how it's all started was the client wanted to save time and like they were too busy and whatnot. So they would record all of these videos showing us how they used to do all these different things in Excel. They used to have these like massively sophisticated Excel documents that they would keep for years and years, like to organize. That was like how they tracked all sorts of things. And they would go really fast in a video, like screen sharing, whatever, showing me how they did all these things and basically like said, okay, now build it for me in Salesforce, right? And obviously we didn't just start building from that. Like we did ask questions, but it started off on the wrong foot where we just tried to accomplish what they showed us.
Yeah.
And yes, we did some requirements gathering, but they just wanted to like start.
And did they have kind of like, had they already done the solution in their mind and they were just trying to tell you just how to build, like just build this in Salesforce instead of understanding the business and then you guys I guess, bring in that Salesforce knowledge?
They came to us with, they picked an App Exchange product and they wanted
they already done the work.
Exactly. They came to us with, we want to implement this product, but we want to customize it to these needs. Here's how we used to do it all in Excel. Go fix it all. And I think they pushed back a little bit on us in terms of the requirements gathering and like, they didn't want to pay for like a big discovery. They were like, just
Do you reckon that was the driver? They were just trying to do it as cheaply as possible. Was that the key, or they just they thought that they knew what they needed and they just wanted someone to come and build it, so to speak? What do you think was driving it?
Legitimately thought we know what we want.
Yeah.
Replicate what the problem, if I had to distill it, is this desire, like replicate what we currently do in this new tool. Whereas like that shouldn't be the goal. Like it should be, how do we get the business results with this new tool, or how do we get the business result? But one of the problems was that in Excel, you can modify any cell and write anything in the world. There's no logic that stops you from putting anything anywhere. And they were used to that. And so anything we would build with a structure doesn't allow you to just break the rules anytime you want. And so effectively they kept pushing back on, but we don't always do it like this. It's sometimes we do it like that. Okay, well then we build out a workaround, and then we don't always do it like this. With someone it's like that, and we like did workaround after workaround after workaround. We're like, ideally we would have gathered all of that in the beginning. We didn't. Effectively, we reached the point like I sell, or in a contract, I'll typically give a quote, an estimate, and I approach the client saying, hey, like we're nearing the end of the estimate hours. We're going to clearly need more because we're doing lots more revisions than we anticipated. And the client wasn't happy. They're like, oh my God, we're nearing the end and we're nowhere near even the solution that we want. Ultimately, we had to come to an agreement where they said basically the app that they chose themselves, they thought, nope, you know what, this is not going to work. And they threw the whole thing away, which is really disheartening because we put in a lot of time and effort into it. And we came up with a financial agreement where they would pay a portion of it because they didn't want the whole thing. It was ugly in that respect.
Sure thing.
Ultimately, that has only happened once to us. That sort of thing blew up. But this, when I read your question, like that's immediately the situation. And now I, certainly have my antenna up looking to avoid that again.
Okay, so now even if you can see signs of that coming, you'd be a lot more, I guess, upfront and said about no, we need to do this regardless. Even if you've got the perfect solution, that may be the case, but we need to get to that position ourselves before we start building something to make sure there's nothing that'll surprise us. Man, fantastic. Really interesting. All right, we are getting towards the end now. That's 3 really cool case studies. I've got a couple of really quick sort of geeky questions before we sort of finish up. So iPhone or Android? Where do you sit on that side of the fence?
iPhone. I've been on iPhone for many years.
Good. We can be friends. Mac or PC?
PC.
Okay. Yeah. What do you guys use internally to sort of manage your communication and sort of track projects? What's your sort of software stack?
It's a good question. I'm always curious, actually, what other people are using. We use ClickUp.
Does that work all right? Are you sort of always iterating how that works and how that suits you, or have you just sort of taken it? Have you always iterating how you use that, or have you sort of just taken something pretty simple out of the box and just using it for simple stages? How have you configured it?
No, I mean we've been pretty consistent in how we're using ClickUp. The ClickUp product keeps improving. They have new releases, but we've been consistent. Documentation this is not a quick answer, but I'll just want to say,
that's fine. Perfect.
I feel like documentation is something that everyone knows could be done either better or differently. And so we're trying to do more and more documentation, and ClickUp is a good tool, but is it the best tool? We're also using elements.cloud more and more to track like user stories, and you can attach user stories to an object or any metadata. So we're sort of working through this, what's the best path? Because now there's like duplicate entry, but not every user story is the same as something in our project management system. But ClickUp, a lot of our projects are billed hourly, and so ClickUp has, every task or project you're doing, you can log time to it as you go. So that is our de facto time tracking as well.
All right, fantastic. And if you were CEO of Salesforce for a day, is there sort of if you had to pick one thing that you could just wave your magic wand, is there something like something that you just wished was a feature they had or a bug that they would fix? Is there sort of something that comes to mind as something you would change about Salesforce if you could?
Oh, it's a lot.
Doesn't have to be. But...
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that I come across. I'm like, why isn't that an option? And then it's not. It's just, why isn't that an option? One thing is, I feel like it should be easier to have default naming or conventions without some sort of fancy workaround. Just, if I want a default naming convention for an object and just click new, and that should be easier.
Yeah, sure. Cool. And I guess a lot of your work would be new projects, but do you sort of inherit existing orgs as well in some of your work? So
actually, the bulk of our work is not new implementations.
Okay.
I know some partners are much more heavy on new implementations.
Yeah.
We are not. Most of our work is ongoing. Okay. Improvements, incremental improvements.
Sure.
You could say managed services, although that means different things to different people.
Okay.
It's not just, quick break it, fix it. plug in the printer type stuff. It can be also building new integrations or, managing new workflows, streamlining things. But it's ongoing orgs. Those are the best, I think, because you build long-term relationships with clients where year over year, they're seeing more benefit, they're happy. And frankly, the revenue stream just keeps growing. It doesn't end in a project. But like my company is very forgiving and like flexible with arrangements and contracts.
Fantastic.
That like Salesforce is not. If you sign a contract with them, that's what you're paying them. They're not.
Good luck changing that mid-year. Good luck changing that.
No, good luck. They don't care that you change your business model or that you don't have 20 users, you only need 15. Like they don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know. So when I don't sell like hours a month, you use it or lose it. I sell a lot of buckets of time. Like you can buy 50 hours of time or 20 hours of time and then use it over time. Obviously it's flexible to the client, but it has its downsides to me too, because, you get this lumpy work. They ask for a lot of work this month and zero work for 2 months. And then they come back in 6 months and want to fix something, but I have no idea what they're talking about because the guy that used to do that is not working with me anymore. And like, it's been so long. Like, so
interesting.
It gets a little messy, although still to this point, I allow it because I feel like if I was the client, I would not be happy with paying for a use it or lose it agreement. And I don't think that's small businesses can do that. I think like big businesses, all right, they don't care. It's like not their money.
Not their money. That's right.
But I think the smaller clients, they won't do that. So I accommodate.
And is there, with all the sort of orgs that you, I guess, have taken on that are already established, have you sort of seen any themes of poor practice or poor setup that have sort of come up multiple times that you think people should be aware of in terms of, that's happened again, someone else has set this up in a certain way? Is there something that's come up multiple times that comes to mind?
I mean, a common thing is just creating custom fields, custom objects unnecessarily.
So not thinking it through, just going, new object, new field, as a quick and easy.
Either done by the client themselves because they figured out how to go to object manager,
or some trailhead,
or they found some freelancer for not much money on the internet. And so I'll give you a couple examples. One is we took on a client that had 100 different custom fields, like uncle's first name, cousin's first name, brother's first name, mom's last name. It's like all on the contact record. So it's like it made no sense, right? This is not how you build relationship. Like obviously
that's not a relational database.
So we cleaned all that up, right? And that's one thing. But the other thing is when you get, so I think that type of thing was probably done by the end user, not by another consultant. But I think you also get situations where somebody was hired for a very specific purpose to build something, and they built it, whether it's an Apex or not in Apex. Like they just built like some fancy solution that solved a very specific need, but without any larger understanding of the org, the business, the best practice, sustainability. And so I just spoke to the client a few days ago where like they've got this same scenario in multiple departments where they a developer built some specific thing for that department. But now that they've they're taking a step back and they're like, wait a minute, like this doesn't all work together. It's actually like contradictory. And so I would say I see that a lot where they've had different
piecemeal add-ons that not taken within the broader context of the org and how they could all work together. Perfect.
But I get it as well. Like it's easy as a consultant to criticize and be like, well, they should have paid for an architect to oversee this all. Like, but they don't have money for that. Like what they did have was the need one day, so they went off and found someone to solve their need. And it's to some degree, I don't know. At my home, if my dishwasher breaks, I find a dishwasher repairman. He fixes it and he leaves. I don't know where this metaphor is going, but I'm not
I was just trying to think ahead about how to connect.
I'm not paying monthly basis a home architect to make sure that everything is perfect. Like,
absolutely.
Because I'm one family with one kitchen. I'm a small business or whatever. I'm a small player, and I think big businesses can afford to have a architect or have an ongoing relationship with a Salesforce provider. But it's totally reasonable that small businesses don't, and they have these piecemeal solutions.
Absolutely.
And anyway, just periodically you have to clean it out. I think that's the only thing I can
No, I
say.
love that. Um, how many hours a week do you think you work on average? Like, if you had to sort of just smooth it out,
Yeah, I
what are you
would
trying?
say maybe 40 to 50.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I'm not trying to kill myself
Yeah.
running this business or growing this business.
Yeah.
I'm in the U.S. There's maybe a bit of a different work attitude here to maybe
Yep.
Australia or other parts of the world.
Okay.
So I know some small business owners that they work like a zillion hours a week, um,
Really?
and they say like, well, I have to do so many things, and like I want to grow my business, and I'm so ambitious. I
Yeah.
just don't. It's not that I'm not. Uh, it's just not the life I want to lead, and
Yep.
so yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, perfect. And what's the perfect day for you? Sort of door locked and tapping away at the computer, or on the phone in meetings, or where
Uh,
do you thrive, or a bit of both?
a perfect day for me is do some work in the morning and then go for a business lunch.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I like meeting people in person, sort of
Yep.
old fashioned in that way. Whether it's clients or just like random people that I know that
Hmm.
are either in the Salesforce world or related or tangential or not even related.
Yep.
I like, and I joke about this business lunch thing because I got like a personality test at one point
Okay.
as part of like a team building thing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the system spat out. It wasn't somebody who like knows me that like
Yeah.
you have a risk of long lunches. The
Oh
system
gosh.
spat it out as like that is a known risk. You should know about it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I do like long lunches, so you're
Oh,
right.
that's hilarious. That is funny.
Um, but I mean, the upside is honestly like long lunches with people turn into referrals. So like,
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
But
No,
yeah, so
that's cool.
my ideal day is a mix. Like I try not to jump between 1,000 clients. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there.
Yep.
Um, but it's not always up to me what I get to do, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes that is my day. It's not ideal, but I have to
Yep.
solve a problem here and then solve a problem there and then talk to a client who's unhappy or then talk to a potential lead.
Yeah. Sure.
So um, I would say that's just the reality of consulting is that you've got to swivel your head and, you know,
Yep.
handle different situations.
Perfect. Well, that's my interrogation complete. John, can you tell us about you and your business and how you guys can help people if the opportunity arises?
Yeah, sure. So my business, we work with like small, medium-sized businesses as well as nonprofits. We work with clients to essentially deliver the business need that they have. Um, I should have said it earlier in the call, but what we try to do is emphasize that we are not uh, that we see the big picture and we're here as like business focused. Like let's
Hmm.
get you the solution to move the needle and not just build some whiz bang fancy technology thing
Hmm.
that isn't going to prove itself, right? And in terms of ROI, not worth it.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know who's going to listen to this. So whether you're a client or an end user of Salesforce or you're a consultant, we
Yep.
are always looking for good talent, whether it's freelance or full time roles. And what can be interesting in our team, maybe different to other companies out there, is that
Okay.
we work across a range of industries. So
Hmm.
you're going to get exposure to different types of problems, different types of solutions. And there's a lot of learning that can be borrowed from one to the other. And, just, mentally interesting.
Yeah, sure. And what's the best way for people to reach out to you? Like through the website or?
Or maybe LinkedIn would be best.
Okay.
Just my name, Jon Mervis, or
Yep.
else, of course, my website, Blue Engine Solutions.
So where'd that business name come from? Just out of curiosity. What does that mean?
Um, I think I wanted to start the company and didn't want to. I knew that like you could go on a 6 month, whatever, a year venture on like finding the perfect name and branding
Yeah.
and
Yep.
website. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I need to learn Salesforce and I
Yep.
need to get customers. And
Yep.
I'm just going to put like, not a placeholder, but I just like a generic random name. And
Yeah.
it's good enough for now. And I can always go back and change it. And it's 4 years later and I haven't gone back and changed it. But I am in the process now of trying to redo our website because I
Okay.
feel like, 4 years in, it's time to up that. But Blue Engine didn't mean much other than
Okay.
a little bit of an allusion to the little blue engine that could, or what is that
Yeah,
book
sure.
called?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I feel like Salesforce is a little bit about uh, persistence and trying to
Yep.
find, get to the end of the challenge, even if it's not easy. And yeah,
Cool, cool. All right. Well, I appreciate your time, so I'm going to bring this to an end. But I'll just
Okay.
finish by asking what's coming up? Anything exciting on the horizon, either at work or outside of work? Anything really cool coming up?
Um, well, we're having a new baby. I'm going to say
Yeah.
that.
How long you got to go? What's the countdown?
The baby is coming in June 1st, so or potential. That's the due date.
All right. So you're
So,
good to go. Are you ready? You got everything in order, or you got some
we're
jobs to do?
getting ready. So that's one
Okay.
thing. The AI world, honestly, I'd like a lot of people know that I need to be learning it more. Know that
Mm.
there's always stuff on LinkedIn that like makes me feel dumb because like, oh no, I don't know the latest and greatest. I need to just dedicate time. I feel like I should be blocking out time to just
Yeah. Have you
experimenting.
got clients asking about it and them wondering what's possible, or is it more so just you trying to stay ahead so you're ready to serve the clients when that comes, sort of?
You know what? I don't have clients asking that much about it. It's a very good.
Okay.
It's an interesting point
Mm.
that they're not knocking down my doors. But I want to be able
Yeah.
to go to them and say like, hey,
Yeah.
they're the
Hey, we
latest
could do
greatest
this.
thing. Um, and it's a little bit weird or interesting that like you go to Dreamforce, you hear all about it, you hear all these different talks, and everything is all AI.
Mm.
And then you actually go to your computer and try to use something, and it's like, well, nothing's available. Like it's all like
Yeah.
gonna one day, one day, one day. But I feel like that's obviously going to be changing, and with the newest release, there are some more tools.
Yeah.
But that is one thing when you talk about what's on the horizon that I know I need to be spending more time in building tools like into Salesforce
Hmm.
that will make clients' lives easier. So
Yeah, and what's fascinating to me in that space is even some of the predictive stuff they've built so far is almost useless for anything outside of the basic standard objects. Like even if they do bring out something fancy, I'm curious to see how well it can adapt to custom objects. Because God, the amount of random objects that are going to exist in the Salesforce world, like how could one product, unless it's that smart. But yeah, it's really interesting to see where they're going to go with that, isn't it?
every day, it's yeah, I don't know.
Is there something in, like, this is just off the cuff, is there something that you're really curious about? Is there like a specific use case you've got in mind that you're wondering if AI can serve in some way, or you're just like big picture curious in general? Or
Well, there was a use that a situation I used it for a few weeks ago. I didn't build it into Salesforce, but like they wanted to start categorizing an object. I forgot what object was it. It wasn't cases, but it was something like that. Oh, it was a custom object they had for like home repairs, right?
Okay.
Because they're doing home repairs for underprivileged people
Hmm.
for free to like make sure they have heating and I don't know their roof's not leaking, um,
Yep.
and they wanted to start categorizing them differently. And they of course have
Okay.
thousands of records in the system. And so going forward, okay, great, you start using the new drop downs.
Mm.
But what about in the past? And so I thought, well, what if we took like the descriptive ways you used to describe them and put it into ChatGPT and said, okay, recategorize all these according to the new
Yeah.
dropdown.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Right.
it sort of worked. I felt like it was clunky, and maybe it's just a learning curve of me learning how to like. I had more
Hmm.
data than I could copy and paste, and so then I
Yep.
tried, and like some of it was off the screen, so I didn't know where it went.
Hmm.
But it ultimately was good at figuring out. Okay, somebody wrote, uh, whatever heater broken. That must
Yep.
mean HVAC repair, right?
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Okay.
so yeah,
Interesting.
that was an interesting use, but it wasn't built into Salesforce. It was more of like, you
Yeah.
know, as part of our new setup, I just did like a one-time import of all the new data.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, John. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the new baby.
Yeah, thanks.